How's it going, everyone? This is a little bit something different I'm doing. Usually I'm doing the Defiant Lions show, but I decided to do a little bit of a special, an NBA draft, free agency, and trade rumor show. I am joined by Sarcasm and Liberty's own Mike Earthry. How's it going, Mike?
Good, man. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So I'm hoping you got a chance to see a lot of these finals games that happened over the last week or two.
Yeah, that was a really good final series. It didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, but you
Hmm.
know, it's hard to predict injuries. It's hard to predict
Oh
breakout
yeah.
games. So
Yeah, but it was such a great series despite, all the tragic things that happened. I mean, um if you watched that last game and saw Clay Thompson go out, he came back and did his two free throws. I mean, they should give him a max contract just for that.
absolutely.
Um so yeah, but as many of you know, the Toronto Raptors are the NBA champions, and well, it looks as though that the NBA landscape is going to completely change after this NBA Finals because you have Kyrie Leonard, who led the Raptors to the championship, most likely going to the LA Clippers. We'll get into that a little bit later. We have two of the biggest name free agents, Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, suffering injuries that will probably take them out the entirety of the season next year. Kevin Durant's a definite. I think Klay Thompson is a probable on that. Um, so this next NBA season has already started, and on June 20th, the NBA draft is happening. A couple of days after that, NBA free agents can start to sign where they want, and we're going to see a completely different NBA. Once the season starts, and um, of course it all starts with the draft. So we're going to go through that a little bit. The draft lottery really turned into a lottery this year, didn't it, Mike?
Yeah, the Lakers finishing where they did in the standings, and somehow they managed to get the number 4 pick.
Hmm.
That I did not see that one coming. To be honest with you, I thought the Suns were going to have a really good chance of getting the number 1 pick again, if not the
Hmm.
number 1, at least in the top 3. Just
Oh yeah.
because of where they were in the standings and their odds of getting the first pick.
Oh yeah.
Um, but by far the funniest, the Knicks. The Knicks banked so hard on it. Seeing Knick fans talk on social media, they had it all figured out. Get the number 1 pick, draft Zion, sign Kevin Durant, sign Kyrie Irving, make a super team, and then win the East. They just
Oh
made
yeah.
it seem so easy. But now they have the number 3 pick, and they're probably going to get, RJ Barrett. We'll see how this goes.
Which is a really good pick, but I'm kind of thinking I'm not sure how this trade situation is going to go with AD, but if New York is the one to land them, they'd be giving them the top three, the number 3 pick, which I think it would be really good to see RJ Barrett and Zion Williamson on the same team. I think that has
I agree. I
a lot of
agree.
appeal.
Those two already have the chemistry, so yeah, that would be
Yeah,
that would that would be perfect for the Pelicans.
And they want to play together. If you saw the NBA draft lottery pre-show, it was all about interviewing them, talking about how much they enjoyed playing with each other and how much they wish they could continue to play with each other. But now's actually their chance, because the other front runners in that AD sweepstakes is supposedly the Celtics, which doesn't make any sense with Kyrie leaving, and the Lakers. And obviously there's just such a stretch from that RJ Barrett to all these NBA draft people. After that, we got Colby White, who I think um, is actually the best looking point guard. I know RJ Barrett is a shooting guard, and he's probably the second best. I think the second best player in this draft. I'm not really sold on John Morant. I think he's gonna be a house cat in the House of Lions, or in the Lions Den, so to speak.
How about
Um,
Darius Garland? Where do you think he sits
I,
as
I
far as
think
point guards?
I think Darius Garland looks pretty good. I think he can kind of be one of those like if if it works out, if it works out, or if it doesn't work out, I think he can go either way. I think he might just kind of settle down to be a decent little player, nothing really out of the ordinary, nothing that's gonna, no one that you're gonna be talking about big time when summer free agency hits. I don't think. Not like your Kevin
Okay.
Durant and LeBron James of the world.
Right.
Um, I also have my concerns about Zion because I mean, you know, I think the big problem is a lot of these guys are getting drafted at 18, 19 years old, and they're just not an adult yet. And you're bringing a lot on these kids to bring them up to the NBA level at 19, anyways. And not too bad, but I think I've seen Zion show a little bit of immaturity. So I mean, hopefully the immaturity factor doesn't weigh too much on his career because he's just such a phenomenal talent, generational player.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a it's actually kind of a shame he's going to the Pelicans too.
Right.
I mean, if it wasn't bad enough, they had to change their name to the Pelicans, which is the worst sports team name I've ever heard in my life.
It's a state bird. I mean, I
Uh,
understand their reason for doing it, but still, Pelicans.
Yeah.
Come on, Louisiana, you can do better than this.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, are the Penguins a state bird of Pennsylvania then? With the Pittsburgh Penguins?
No, I don't
Because
know what Pennsylvania state bird is, but no one cares about the Penguins. They suck.
yeah,
Um,
I mean that would be a weird state bird for for Pennsylvania, but
right? Yeah.
you think that they'd be able to come up with something besides Pelicans. I think they should have tried to buy the Jazz name back from Utah. Like, listen, you're in Utah. There's no Jazz there.
Or they could have done. Well, I think there's a. I I do know there used to be a hockey team called the New Orleans Brass. I think there might be an AHL team,
Hmm.
or they could be independent hockey. I don't know, but they probably could have used that name if it was available. Makes more sense than Pelicans.
Oh yeah, just anything but
Yeah.
Pelicans. I mean, you just don't even want to be part of the franchise just because you're known as a Pelican.
Right.
Um, there's a couple interesting guys in this draft. I mean, I think a lot of the 4 through 10 guys kind of shift in together. I think Colby White could be a real good talent if he is able to work on his finishing ability. He's got handles like a dream, and you look at all the heavy handle players such as James Harden, Kyrie Irving. What's that guy's name over in Indiana now? I can't think of his name, but point is, handling the ball has become one of the most important aspects of the game
Right.
in today's era. So I think just on that, he's 6 foot. I think he's 6'5" or 6'6" at point guard. So you put him in a shooting guard role and have a kid with handles like that. I think he's going to become a sensational player. And a lot of you probably don't remember his father, Minute Bull, but we have someone by the name of Bol Bol here, who is a 7 foot tall center who can shoot the lights out pretty much. But his draft stock has actually fallen because of his big time injury. Which I mean, obviously, big guys, especially skinny big guys like him, are going to have injury concerns. Do you remember my new bull, or did you see him play at all?
I don't remember him. No.
Oh, okay. He
Who
he
did he
was
play for?
he played for a couple different teams. I can't really recall completely. But if you check out videos of this guy, Manute Bull, like he was way ahead of his time. He was the first big man shooting threes way back in like the 80s and 90s. And you kind of look at where the league has turned now, where it's like the big man has to shoot. And I was kind of against that a long time until I started seeing these old Minute Bull videos. And he was such a big clunky guy, it was hard for him to get to the other side of the court. So they figured perch him on the top of the 3-point line, just have him shoot threes. If it goes in, it goes in. And if not, he can, get to the other side and block pretty much any shot that's going to go in, that could possibly go in.
Okay.
Um, so it helps in that transition defense, which is so important in today's game where everyone is like a fucking racehorse. Um, so yeah, so we got, like I said, we got a couple of them. We got you mentioned Darius Garland. I think he's going to be a nice player. DeAndre Hunter is another one that's up there, but I think he's more of like a like a third or fourth starter where it's like you can pass him the ball and he can hit the shot or make the drive, or he's got to be kind of that Wesley Matthews type of player, if you will. I would say maybe a
Okay.
little bit, more inside rather than outside than Wesley Matthews, but to that same extent of the role. Um, as you can plainly see, I am a Celtics fan. Celtics had the 14th pick in the draft, and well, besides Bol, I am really hoping they go for a guy named Goga Badatsi. I'm not sure if you've even heard that name in the draft boards. Have you, Mike?
No, I've not.
Yeah, he's going pretty unnoticed. Most draft boards will have him going like anywhere from like 16 to 20, and this kid can finish. He's 19 years old, 6'11", really intense, has a great feel for the basketball. When you watch his tapes, and he's just a complete bruiser. I mean, you talk about these may not be those spectacular guys, but talk about guys like Zaza Pachulia and Andrew Bogut, the real bruises of the game, and then you add a little bit of offensive game and a little bit of athletic intensity, and that's what I think you got in Goga Badati. So that's my gem to look for right there. So do you have any other favorites besides Darius Garland?
Um, there's one. He's projected to go in the second round. I think the second pick of the second round of the 76ers.
Hmm.
For this mock draft I'm looking at, Daniel Gafford out of Arkansas.
Hmm.
Big kid, 6'10", large frame. Watched him in college. Creates a lot of havoc in the paint, especially underneath the basket.
Hmm.
He could go late first round. I don't really know teams that are in need of a center, but June 20th, during the first round, keep an eye out for that name.
Well, what's funny, and it's kind of just a problem with the NBA. I've noticed where it's like so many there will be teams that have like three or four centers. Like some of them are really good, promising young talents or current talents, and then you'll have a team that has absolutely no centers and is starting a Tyler Zeller.
Hmm.
Um, so it all depends on what team you're talking about. I mean, and a lot of these teams are going to be on the long rebuild, so they're just trying to get the youngest, best potential players. So those teams are going to be looking to get a guy named like Bol and um, Darius Garland, Jared Culver that are gonna possibly pan out to be something something big, and that goes for the centers like Bruno Fernando. I think Goga Badazzi is someone that could help right away. I mean, the kid's a huge kid, intense. He's playing meaningful minutes in I forget what country he's playing in, but he's playing somewhere overseas. Um, so I'm really excited about him. There, like you said, guys that are projected to go in like the um, second round, early second round. These guys are looked at as possible really good talents. I mean, Romeo Langford for one. Um, Another big guy. He may not have a lot of potential, but Taco Fall. Have you heard of that guy?
Yeah, from UCF.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know how he's going to hold up in the NBA, to be honest with you. As
I
tall
don't.
as he is, as thin as he is, I just
Yeah,
don't. I don't see him having a career, really.
and he doesn't really have a shot, but I mean, if you're looking for a big body, I mean, that's the kind of kid that you would be taking in the second round, where you just kind of had these
Yeah,
extra picks that you can throw against the wall. Um,
right.
but the draft is only part of it. It like I said, I'm not big on John Morant or Jay Morant, however you pronounce his name. I think he's gonna be too small of a guy to really transition to the NBA. I don't think he's gonna transition well at all. Um, but there are a couple good names on this list that could potentially be boom or bust candidates. But also we got despite Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson going down, as I mentioned, we have a lot of free agents floating around the open market, and it's going to be an exciting summer. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, you,
Absolutely, yes.
you talk about Kyrie Leonard, who just stopped his second dynasty.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I don't know how that. I mean, the kid's stock was already through the roof, and he just made it even bigger. I mean, sources say that he wants to go and play in LA for the Clippers. And if that's true, just imagine that Pacific Conference. I mean, you got that young upstart Suns team, you have the young upstart Kings team, and then you have Golden State Warriors, who are going to probably take a step back, but they're still going to have some of the same players, making them a decent team. And then you're going to have LeBron and whoever they can get this year.
Yep. It's gonna be
Um,
interesting. It's gonna be interesting. People are talking about now if Kawhi is gonna stay in Toronto because he'd have the chance to continue winning. I personally, I think that his chances of staying in Toronto have improved, but I think
mm,
ultimately he does want to go to Los Angeles. He's from LA. He went to college at San Diego State.
yeah,
Um, I think he would want to go home. I think he would be a Laker if LeBron was not there. I
yeah,
think that, whenever he was with the Spurs, he was not the guy. He was good, but he was not the guy. He was on a team with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, so he wasn't the guy.
yeah.
Now he goes to Toronto. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, he ended up being the guy, but he kind of came out of nowhere. He was almost like the Pascal Siakam of this playoffs, but
Yep.
obviously he was like the first option when it all came down to it. But I think when you're talking about the Spurs, when you're talking about who really makes the Spurs who they are, it's none of the guys on the court. It's 100% Greg Popovich. I mean, that
Yep.
guy, that guy could bring the towel boy to the playoffs.
Yep. And Kawhi knows what it's like to be the guy now. And like I think he likes being the guy, but at the same time, you look at the way Kawhi is. He's quiet, he's polite, he's
Mm,
humble, and he does not attract drama. He does not create drama. LeBron James is in LA. The media is a circus in LA because LeBron is there. I think he wants no part of that. So I think
mm,
he does go to the Clippers and not the Lakers. Last
yeah,
summer, there was all that talk about the Lakers trying to trade for Kawhi before the season started. It never happened.
yeah,
That's probably the best thing to happen for Kawhi is to not go to the Lakers.
yeah.
So I
And they
think
ended up getting a good return for Kyrie Leonard, actually, because they got DeMar DeRozan, which
yep,
personally I think the Spurs are going to end up trading this year because I mean, one, he doesn't fit into Popovich's system. He's not like a Popovich style player.
yeah,
Um, and I think Popovich is on his way out, and I think they're kind of going into a rebuilding mode, anyways.
yep,
So I mean, it would be kind of a waste to keep a talented guy like DeMar DeRozan, who could be a serviceable number two next to a LeBron James or a Kyrie Leonard, let's say, in their respective teams. So
yep,
I think he's next to AD. He's the next one that I would be calling to have traded. Um, but besides Kyrie Leonard, who is just come out as the most spectacular player. I mean, maybe he's actually past LeBron at this point in his career as far as hype and value and all that. But we have Kyrie Irving, who seemingly wants to go to the Nets.
I
Um,
don't know why. I
well, I
I
mean,
don't know why. I mean,
he's
I get it. He's from New Jersey. He grew up a Nets fan, but still, I don't know why.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much the only, and I mean it pretty much got confirmed when he fired his agent and signed on to Jay Z's athlete agency, and
Right.
Jay Z obviously is part owner of the Barclays Center.
Yes.
So just connect the dots. Nothing can be said obviously right now because there's rules and regulations of what can officially be said and signed
Right.
and all that kind
Yep.
of stuff. Um, but it's like there's there's so many things changing, and not even talking about just the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors, who I mentioned two of their star players are injured for the entirety of next year, and neither of those two players are even actually signed on for next year yet.
I
Um,
think I think Kevin Durant has an option.
yeah,
And he's going to take up that option. He's going to stay in the Warriors and do nothing.
yeah.
Clay Thompson is unrestricted, I believe.
No, he's unrestricted, but they can actually use the bird years to give him an extension over the cap. So
Okay.
if they really want to, but at the same time, they're definitely going to take a big step back at least for that year while those guys are recovering. Because as great as Steph Curry is, and as great as Draymond
No.
Green is, you need someone else to carry the rest of the team, as you saw in that NBA Finals series.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Kemba Walker, also, I guess, is staying put where he is in Charlotte. He said that.
Charlotte does not deserve Kemba Walker.
I know
Kemba
it's a
Walker,
tragedy.
he's he's loyal. He says he's willing to take a pay cut to stay with the Hornets. They do not deserve him because
Yeah,
they're not going to put anyone around him. He's willing to take a pay cut to get better players there and try to win, but they're not like who is Charlotte going to get?
yeah, and that's the thing. He said
Who
that he'd take a pay cut if they can build a team around him. But
who
I'm
who
looking
wants to
around
go to
like,
Charlotte?
well, I mean, they don't even have the cap space to do anything because they give like $17,000 contracts to guys like to like old guys that haven't been good in like 5 years. Like, oh, like we'll just give you
Right.
$17 million. Like, it's not gonna hurt anything. Like, yeah, it does.
Like you
Um,
never hear anything about Charlotte. Like Michael Jordan is their owner, and yet you
mm.
still hear nothing about Charlotte. Michael Jordan is there, and there's no buzz whatsoever coming out of North Carolina.
I think if it wasn't a sunken ship already, it absolutely sunk the moment they drafted that Frank Kaminsky kid.
Makes no sense.
And you know what? The Celtics were trying to trade them like a bunch of picks for that pick because the Celtics wanted Justice Winslow, the kid that the Heat ended up picking right afterwards.
Mm.
And Michael Jordan was like, "Nope, I'm getting myself Frank Kaminsky." It's like Frank Kaminsky would have been there at 12, where because the Celtics I think were gonna trade them the 12th pick or 14th pick. I'm like, no one besides your dumb ass was gonna pick that kid that high up. Like,
Right,
uh,
man.
you got a team offering you like a bunch of picks to draft a player, and it's not the same player that you're thinking is your golden option. Oh God, biggest fail ever.
Yep.
So a lot of these guys that are on the free agency market, you kind of already know the fate of. Like Kristaps Porzingis is up for a contract. He's restricted, and Mark Cuban is
Yeah, he'll
absolutely not
resign.
letting him. He's already like written a book about how much he loves the idea of him and Luka Doncic playing together
Yeah,
for
I
you know
believe
the
I believe Porzingis said he wanted to extend in Dallas when he got there.
Hmm.
I think he said it like right after he got off, like as soon as he stepped off the plane, he had a talk with the Mavericks front office, and then he was just like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna sign an extension and I'm gonna stay here. So
Yeah.
Dallas
So
could be Dallas could be pretty good next couple of years.
yeah, I don't like that they gave up Dennis Smith Jr. because I think he was a really good player. Which I
Yeah,
think he's a guy that doesn't get talked about enough when you're talking about the whole New York Knicks situation. I mean, you're talking about a potential all-star level player in Dennis Smith Jr. that's getting paid around $2 million, and you can bring in two max guys. I mean, there's not really many people to choose from at this point, with Leonard and Urban pretty much already being in their destination. All the top names are kind of going elsewhere, but there's a lot of good names that you could pair with someone like Dennis Smith Jr. and actually build yourself a winning team, such as Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, were both on the Philadelphia 76ers this year. And also from that team, JJ Redick, very prolific shooter, all leaving Philadelphia most likely, and could be going to a place like New York or LA. Um, I would actually like to see Jimmy Butler in New York. I think that would be a good fit for them.
what is the likelihood of Jimmy Butler going to the Clippers with Kawhi?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good a question as any. I mean, he could pick so many different locations. I'm not
Yeah,
even really that. So I think he's definitely got to be a number two guy. Like, you definitely got to have a LeBron or a Kyrie Leonard or a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry next to a guy named Jimmy Butler to make him a winner. He's a Scottie
yeah,
Pippen, if you will. Scottie
yep,
Pippen, great player, but couldn't have done anything without Michael Jordan.
yep.
Um, Another couple interesting ones. Chris Middleton, which I think he kind of lost a lot of his stock in this playoff series with just the dumb moves that he made that really cost his team. The losses against the Raptors that ultimately led to their demise. Um, I'm not sure if you saw that play where he absolutely panicked when a rebound was coming his way, jumped out of the way, and then Marcus Gasol, you know, got called for the foul. No, Marcus Gasol got it and got called for the foul for Brooke Lopez reaching in on him, trying to get the rebound. Um, So I think, even though that's one play, that kind of shows like he's not the clutch player that you want to put on a championship team. And, sadly, Milwaukee's going to take a step back, and, they have so much potential with that, guy Giannis Antetokounmpo at the helm.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how you feel about Giannis Antetokounmpo, but I think he should be spoken of more highly than a lot of these big name guys like Kyrie Irving and Kemba Walker and
Yeah.
Russell
He's
Westbrook.
he's the front runner for MVP this year, right?
I think so. I mean, he had an amazing season. I mean,
Okay.
they run everything through him, but I
Yeah,
just don't. I just even with that, I just don't think he gets the credit he really deserves,
yeah,
because they always had the criticisms like, oh well, he can't shoot and whatever. I'm like,
right.
how many of the greatest players of all time couldn't shoot a 3-pointer? I mean, he can
Yeah,
actually shoot him once in a while, but he's not a knockdown shooter like a Chris Middleton or JJ Redick.
yeah.
Um,
Well, he's not in that conversation yet, but he will be. He should already be there,
hmm.
but he will be though. I mean, just give him. I mean, he'll win MVP this year, and then next year it'll be a different discussion.
Well, if you're gonna win MVP, your team has to do at least decently well. Like, no one's gonna, pick Devin Booker for MVP, no matter how big his numbers are, just because they're
Right.
not winning in Phoenix. So I
Yeah.
think that's really what it comes down to is I think he's definitely in the conversation if the Milwaukee Bucks continue to win, but I mean, I think they kind of boned themselves with, going all in this year, much like the Toronto Raptors did, much like the 76ers did, um, this year. And, Toronto was the one that ultimately captured the gold and cashed it all in. But, what are they going to look like next year?
Right.
Um, also, Nikola Mirotic is going to be a free agent. He's no longer on the Bucks. They they're probably going to re-sign what's his name? Um, had his name right here a second ago. Uh, why can't I think of
Malcolm
his name?
Brogdon.
Malcolm Brogdon. Thank you.
Yep.
It was on the tip of my tongue. Um, and a lot of these guys, like they're on player options or team options that they could be going elsewhere. There's a couple of really good names. Bohan Bogdanovic from the Indiana Pacers, as well as Thaddeus Young, both very instrumental players in the Indiana Pacers run. Sadly, their star player went down with an injury and kind of sealed their fate in the playoffs. But um, they could make a team a lot better. Derrick Rose is back on free agency. He just came off probably his best season since his MVP season in Minnesota. Um, I don't think he's going to get a big contract, but he could sign another $2 million deal in, say, in LA or a Clippers, where they have a championship ready team. Well,
Yeah.
Clippers if Kyrie Leonard goes there.
Yeah.
Obviously, because wherever he goes becomes a contender.
What do you think about
Um,
Tobias Harris?
Tobias Harris, I mean, I like him, but he is what he is. He's like a kind of middle of the pack player. I think you see a lot of Tobias Harris. Like, I think, and this guy isn't on any top free agency list that I have seen at all. Thomas Satoransky from the Washington Wizards, he was the player that stepped in for John Wall during his injury this year, and this kid absolutely lit it up. Has great feel for the ball, really smart, unselfish player, can score, can pretty much do a little bit of everything, and he's not even being mentioned in any of these free agency discussions. Where I think he may be the one of the hottest free agencies hitting the summer when you're really thinking about it. A premier point guard that knows how to run a starting offense.
Yeah. I'm going to make a bold prediction really quick.
All right.
Phoenix needs a power forward. They're going to draft a point guard. Like their two biggest needs right now are point guard and power forward.
Mm.
They're going to draft the point guard out of Vanderbilt that we talked about. I can't remember his name now.
Garland.
Uh, yeah, Garland. I think Phoenix is going to make a push for Tobias Harris. He's the top free agent power forward on the market this year. So I think
Yeah,
you'll see Harris in a Suns uniform when the next season kicks off.
yeah, but I mean, I guess I can agree with that. He might be the. I mean, I kind of look at him more as a small forward, but I mean, I guess the way the league is going, small forwards are power forwards. Um, yeah, I think he's a good player. I think he's just gonna waste away in Phoenix because they don't like winning over there. I don't know what it is. They keep drafting all these hot young players and they'll trade them away before they resign them.
Well, they have a new coach every single year, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like they bring in a new coach, finish in last place, and fire him before he can even get himself established. So
Hmm.
if they can keep a coach for more than 1 year, they have a good young core in place. They just need to be developed, and they need consistency. You
Yeah.
bring to every single year. He changes the game plan and changes the entire dynamic when you bring a new coach in. So
Oh yeah. And I mean, if their job wasn't already hard enough trying to stay relevant in today's NBA, you're talking about the possible what's left with the Warriors. the Lakers with LeBron James and whoever, the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard and whoever goes over with him,
Yeah.
and the Kings, all young guys, and they were absolutely killing it last year. I mean, I think everyone was surprised by how well Sacramento played and
They almost made the
realized,
playoffs.
yep,
Yeah.
they were this close. I mean, they're going to be a threat for the next good 5 years at
Oh yeah.
least.
All that
Um,
tanking, and it's finally starting to.
yeah.
All that tanking's finally starting to pay off.
So I mean, if the Suns are looking to finally put together a game plan and build a contender, now is a horrible time.
True. True.
Pro-
But you know,
I mean, it wouldn't be bad decisions if it wasn't the Suns.
it's why you play the game. So
Yeah, yeah,
why you play the game. You put your best five out there.
yeah. Been you know, like I said, a couple of guys that are floating off the radar. Marcus Saul. I mean, he's kind of being talked about because obviously he just won the championship. He has a player option that he can opt out of, but I think he might possibly stay with the player option because I think he's getting at the age where he's not gonna get offered another $30 million contract.
Oh no, he'll be
He,
35.
yeah,
You think he'll probably sign a 1-year contract, and then I mean, you think he'll take up this option with Toronto and then call it a day after next season?
yeah, and or maybe like come back for one last year, sign like a $5 million MLE to play off the bench as that veteran big. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to get a $30 million contract again. So he might just decide, hey, I'm not going to be able to see this kind of money again. I'm going to take it.
Yeah,
Um, pretty much how Kevin Durant might do it if he can't get someone to sign him for a long-term maximum deal outside of Golden State. He's just going to stay put and take his option. Um, and um, Al Horford also has a player option. He's kind of in that same situation where maybe he can't command another 30 million like he's going to make with the Celtics if he does opt in, but I think he played well enough last year and he's a little bit younger than Marc Gasol, and I think he might be able to still get a 20 to 25 million dollar contract for a multi-year deal. So I guess it would be a little bit more worth it for him to opt out and maybe trying to restructure a contract with the Celtics, or maybe fly somewhere else, maybe join up with another star in New York, or I doubt he goes to LA, but I mean these are all possibilities. Al Horford
yeah,
is not married to the Celtics.
right. Okay. One thing I want to ask you about before we wrap this up.
All right.
So there's been all this talk about how the Lakers are going to get Anthony Davis,
Mm,
and it seems now like they're going to have to arrange some kind of 3-team trade in order to get Anthony Davis to LA from New Orleans, because like the Pelicans have already said that they don't want AD in the West, which makes total sense.
mm,
They don't want to trade him within the conference. I totally get that.
yeah.
But I don't think the Knicks have enough to get Anthony Davis, and I don't think the Celtics do it because he's already said that he wouldn't stay in Boston if he goes. He'll be a rental and then he'll go on his way.
Yeah, I'm gonna be so mad at Danny Ainge if he trades away Tatum and Anthony Davis already said that he's not gonna re-sign with us. I would
Yeah,
be pretty pissed about that. But I think New York does have enough. I think when you're really talking about the difference between that third and fourth pick,
right.
um,
I could see it being like the number 3 pick and then maybe like a Kevin Knox or
yeah. Well, they got a
who
couple of
else?
good young players. I mean, they could
Yeah,
even deal Dennis Smith Jr., um, who is a great young player. They have. I mean, this guy's kind of a bust so far, but again, he's only like 20 years old. Frank Ntilikina, Nitikleenix, however you pronounce it, Nitikleenix. Frank
Need
needed
a
Kleenex.
Kleenex.
That's gonna be his new name. Frank needed Kleenex. Um, I mean, he could potentially be grow into something. So I mean, you got potential there, and
Yeah.
if you're New Orleans and you're looking to build around Zion Williamson, you're gonna try and say like, listen, like, we're gonna need to wait until these guys, grow up a little bit to really become a contender. So,
Mm.
give us young players. You get the chance to have R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson right next to each other. You could get either a Dennis Smith or a Kevin Knox, as you said. Frank need a Kleenex. Maybe a roster filler in there for good measure, but I mean, you really look at what LA has to offer, and it's like you have Brandon Ingram who has all these health problems. I think they've made it clear that they're not trying to move that power forward kid, Kyle
Kyle
Kuzma,
Kuzma. I've
great
seen
player.
some reports that said that the Pelicans would want Kuzma. I think the Lakers would be crazy to do it, but you know,
From what I heard, like one guy that they really liked was Josh Hart, which
I've
is
seen that too. I've also
he's a
seen
lesser known name. Lot of heart, really great player, could really amount to something. I
yeah,
think you absolutely give up Josh Hart in that deal if you're the Lakers.
yeah,
Maybe not Kyle Kuzma because I think Kyle Kuzma can help you out right now better than Josh Hart can help you out right now. You just signed LeBron James to a 5-year deal, so obviously your plan is, unless you're going to trade LeBron in that 5-year window, go for a championship with LeBron.
yeah. But I think it would probably they might need to go the three-team trade route. If that's the case,
Mm.
how do they set this up? I mean, do they do something with Memphis that involves Memphis's number 2 pick? Do they do something with, say, maybe San Antonio? Somehow DeMar DeRozan is involved,
You know
or
what I
or maybe Aldridge. Do they like? I don't know how they're going to pull this off,
All
and
right.
I could. I'm kind of hoping this happens just because I want to watch it happen because I think it would be hilarious. But I kind of
Mm.
want to see the Lakers whiff and then see LeBron get upset and demand a trade, like Bill Plaschke said last week.
Yeah. I don't think it'll
That
be
would be
LaMarcus Aldridge. I've kind of heard swirling rumors about Zach Levine from Chicago being that kind of third chip that goes over to New Orleans as Lakers, give up their fourth pick to Chicago.
what is
Um,
Chicago even doing?
I don't know.
What are they even doing? Like ever since Jordan left, Chicago has just sucked.
Well, I mean, they had the Rose injury.
Yeah, they
They
had bad luck with Derrick Rose because he was on a Hall of Fame trek before tearing his ACL the first time, and after that it was just all downhill.
yeah, and then you just look at guys
Outside
that
that, outside that,
mm,
Chicago's been bad.
mm. I mean, they always had a decent team for much of the 2000s, and the players just kind of got old and lost their game. You talk about Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson, and other guys that were. I think Carlos Boozer was on the Bulls during his later years too. I think he was one of the big name guys they tried to bring over to set their franchise straight. I could be wrong on that. I'd have to look back on my notes, but I'm pretty sure I remember Carlos Boozer on the Chicago Bulls during the 2000s.
Okay.
Um, but Zach Levine, I think he would be a good piece to build not build around, but to add to your young New Orleans Pelicans dynasty. Um, but I also really like the idea of Memphis getting their hands in there because they give them the number 2 pick, and then they can still draft R.J. Barrett with that number 2 pick. To satisfy Zion, and I think Memphis could stand to get rid of some of their bad contracts. So I think that also might be part of the deal where it's like New Orleans, you're obviously in a rebuild, so just take some of these bad contracts, and maybe we can work in another pick or two into the equation.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, it all depends on, because I mean, a lot of people are talking about them trading Michael Conley now that they're going to be drafting Ja Morant, but I think they really like Michael Conley, and I don't think they want to trade him. I think they'd be more likely to either, if not having Michael Conley kind of play a mentor role for the duration of his career to Ja Morant, I would think that they would want to trade that second pick and actually try and build that team around Michael Conley and give it one last shot.
Okay. Be interesting to see. The fun starts next Thursday, the 20th, with the
Yep.
draft. Free agency is what, July 1st?
Yeah, somewhere I think it's the June 30th. I mean, it's different days for different things. I mean, it's like, one day the players can officially opt out or
Okay.
opt in, and then the depending on like where they are, there's like a 3-day waiting period where like I think certain free agents are off limits, and then after that it's like all anarchy except for the restriction rules and all that, such as player matches, which is going to be a big factor. If you're not familiar, restricted free agent, another team can offer them, like say Terry Rozier, for instance. He's one of those guys that are on that list. Say Terry Rozier just wants to negotiate with, let's just say New York, for argument's sake, and New York offers him $20 million contract or a $15 million contract. Boston has the power to say, whatever contract he agrees to with you, we can take that over and match it, and just take back the player and say screw you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind. I mean, it's kind of a dirty trick, but I mean, it's helps teams retain the players they drafted, I guess. So I guess it balances it out. But I mean, actually, I think that happened with Otto Porter 2 years ago, where the Brooklyn Nets offered him like a $30 million contract, which is way too much for Otto Porter. And Washington, in desperation, just said, "Oh, we're gonna match it," and now they're kind of screwed money wise.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I do not recommend trying to match $20 million contracts for guys like Terry Rozier. That will put your team in the penalty pretty quickly. Um, but yeah, like you said, I think we can start to wrap things up. We covered a lot. We talked about a lot of these free agents. A lot of them we did not talk about because the list is just ongoing.
Hmm.
Um, you talk about Marc Gasol, Julius Randle, Brooke Lopez, DeAndre Jordan, who's lost a lot of stock, Hassan Whiteside, Ricky Rubio, who I'm actually hoping that the Celtics sign, and Rajon Rondo, another name that's not being spoken of a lot, and another personal favorite of mine, someone that I hope the Celtics sign as well, Boban Marjanovic, who is still going to be the heaviest player in the NBA. When Zion Williamson comes to the NBA, he will be the second heaviest player, though.
Hmm.
Um, but Boban Marjanovic is a 7'3" monster, and Zion Williamson is 6'7". To be second place to Boban Marjanovic at 6'7" is a pretty exciting feat. So I'm excited to see Zion Williamson fly with the Pelicans. Um, you know, possible crazy trades of Anthony Davis and Frank Ntilikina, and we're in for a hell of a ride. I'm gonna be checking Twitter probably every 5 seconds, starting in about 2 weeks. So I hope you all enjoyed our little draft and free agency talk. It's been Mike Leoncello and Mike Ursary from Sarcasm and Liberty. Um, We'll catch you next time.